Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel English Avenue. Today we are going to learn the full history of Rome in 4 chapters. And this is not just the story of one city. This is the story of how a small settlement near a river became one of the most powerful civilizations in world history. Rome gave the world many things: roads, laws, armies, architecture, government ideas, language, cities, engineering, and a powerful historical legacy that still affects the modern world today. When we study Rome, we are not only learning about kings, emperors, battles, and buildings. We are learning how power grows, how societies are built, how discipline creates greatness, how corruption destroys nations, how ambition can build an empire, but also break it. Rome is important because its history is like a mirror. It shows us human strength, human pride, human creativity, human mistakes, human courage, and human weakness. Rome teaches us that no empire becomes great in one day, and no empire falls in one day. Greatness is built step by step. And destruction also comes step by step. That is why the history of Rome is so powerful. It is not only history. It is a lesson about life, leadership, discipline, power, and time. And while watching this video, you can also practice your English with me. Listen carefully. Repeat useful sentences. Learn powerful words like civilization, empire, republic, army, law, power, victory, defeat, emperor, society, and legacy. If you enjoy simple and meaningful history lessons like this, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's begin. Chapter 1. The Beginning of Rome. From small settlements to the Roman Republic. Before Rome became an empire, before it had powerful emperors, before it controlled lands across Europe, Africa, and Asia, Rome was just a small place in central Italy. It did not begin as a world power. It began with small villages, simple people, farmers, shepherds, and families living near the Tiber River. This river was very important. The Tiber River gave people water. It helped with farming. It helped with trade. It gave protection. And near this river, on a group of hills, the early Romans slowly began to build their home. Rome was built on 7 famous hills. These hills gave the people a good place to live because hills were easier to defend from enemies. In ancient times, protection was very important. People did not live in a peaceful modern world. There were tribes, attacks, wars, hunger, and danger. So the location of Rome helped it survive. Rome was also in a powerful position. It was in the middle of Italy. It was close to the sea, but not too close. This was useful. Being close to the sea helped trade. But being a little away from the sea helped protect Rome from sudden sea attacks. So, from the beginning, geography helped Rome. This is one of the first lessons from Roman history. Location can shape destiny. Now, when we talk about the beginning of Rome, we must understand one thing clearly. Rome has both history and legend. History tells us what may have really happened. Legend tells us what Romans believed about their beginning. And the most famous Roman legend is the story of Romulus and Remus. According to the legend, Romulus and Remus were twin brothers. They were connected to royal blood. But when they were babies, they were left near the Tiber River. Their lives were in danger. But they survived. The legend says a she-wolf found them and cared for them. Later, a shepherd and his wife raised them. When the brothers grew older, they wanted to build a city. But they argued about where the city should be built and who should rule it. The argument became violent. Romulus killed Remus. Then Romulus became the founder of Rome. According to tradition, Rome was founded in 753 BC. This story may not be completely historical, but it was very important to Romans. Why? Because it gave Rome a powerful identity. The story showed survival, conflict, ambition, violence, leadership, and destiny. In a strange way, the story of Romulus and Remus reflected the future of Rome itself. Rome would become powerful, but Rome would also be filled with struggle, competition, family conflict, political violence, and ambition. From the beginning, Rome's story was not soft. It was dramatic. It was powerful. It was full of struggle. After this legendary beginning, Rome slowly grew. In its earliest stage, Rome was not an empire. It was not even a republic. Rome was ruled by kings. This period is called the Roman Kingdom. The Roman Kingdom lasted for more than 200 years, according to tradition. Rome had several kings. Some were seen as wise. Some were seen as strong. Some were connected with religion. Some were connected with war. During this early period, Rome was still learning how to become a real city. The Romans developed religious practices. They built basic political systems. They formed early social classes. They improved farming. They created public spaces. They learned from other people around them. And one of the most important groups around early Rome was the Etruscans. The Etruscans lived in central Italy, north of Rome. They were more advanced than early Romans in many ways. They had strong cities. They had good art. They had engineering knowledge. They influenced Roman religion, symbols of power, clothing, architecture, and city planning. Rome did not become great alone. Rome learned from others. This is very important. Many great civilizations grow by learning, borrowing, adapting, and improving. The Romans were very good at this. They did not always invent everything first, but they were excellent at taking useful ideas and making them stronger, bigger, and more organized. From the Etruscans, Romans learned many things about building and ruling. They also learned symbols of authority. For example, Roman kings used special signs of power. Later, Roman officials also used powerful symbols to show authority. Rome was slowly becoming more organized. But Roman society was not equal. There were different social classes. The most powerful families were called patricians. These were rich and noble families. They had land, status, and influence. The common people were called plebeians. They were farmers, workers, soldiers, and ordinary citizens. The plebeians were important because they worked, fought, and supported the city. But in the early days, they had less political power. This tension between rich and ordinary people became one of the biggest themes in Roman history. Rome was not only fighting outside enemies, Rome was also struggling inside its own society. Power was always a question. Who should rule? The rich, the king, the people, the army, the Senate? This question would shape Rome for centuries. Religion was also very important in early Rome. Romans believed that gods were connected to daily life. They believed gods watched over families, farms, war, marriage, birth, death, and the city itself. Religion was not only personal, it was political. Leaders used religion to guide decisions. Public ceremonies were important. Priests had influence. Before big events, Romans often looked for signs from the gods. This shows us how ancient people understood the world. They did not separate religion, politics, war, and society the way many people do today. For Romans, everything was connected. Family was also a strong part of Roman life. The father had great authority in the household. Respect for ancestors was important. Discipline was important. Duty was important. Romans valued strength, loyalty, seriousness, and service to the community. These values helped Rome grow. Rome's early people were not soft luxury seekers. They were practical people. They worked on land. They fought when needed. They respected discipline. They believed in duty. And slowly, these values became part of the Roman character. Another important thing in early Rome was the army. At first, Rome's army was not the professional army we imagine later. It was made of citizen soldiers. These were men who worked as farmers but fought when Rome needed defense. This created a strong connection between land, citizenship, and military service. To be Roman was not only to live in Rome. It meant you had duties, you had responsibilities, you had to serve. This sense of duty helped Rome survive in a dangerous world. But the kingdom period did not last forever. According to Roman tradition, the last king of Rome was Tarquin the Proud. He was seen as cruel and arrogant. His rule created anger among the Roman people and nobles. Finally, the Romans removed the king. This was a turning point. The Romans decided they did not want to be ruled by kings anymore. They hated the idea of one man having too much power. So, around 509 BC, Rome became a republic. This was one of the most important moments in Roman history. The word republic comes from the idea of public affairs. It means the state was not supposed to belong to one king. It belonged to the people, at least in theory. But we must understand this carefully. The Roman Republic was not a modern democracy. Not everyone had equal power. Women could not vote. Slaves had no freedom. Rich families had strong influence. But still, the Republic was a major change. Instead of one king, Rome now had elected officials. The most important officials were called consuls. There were usually 2 consuls at the same time. This was done to stop one person from becoming too powerful. Each consul could check the other. This idea was very important. Romans understood that power must be controlled, because uncontrolled power can become dangerous. Rome also had the Senate. The Senate was made mostly of powerful aristocratic men. It became one of the most important political bodies in Rome. The Senate advised leaders. It influenced laws. It guided foreign policy. It controlled money and decisions. Even when Rome later had emperors, the idea of the Senate remained important. The early republic also faced many internal struggles. The plebeians wanted more rights. They wanted protection from unfair treatment. They wanted a voice in government. The patricians wanted to keep power. This conflict between patricians and plebeians is called the conflict of the orders. It lasted for a long time. The plebeians did not simply accept their lower position. They pushed for rights. They demanded representation. They gained special officials called tribunes. Tribunes could protect plebeians from unfair actions by powerful officials. This was a huge step. It showed that ordinary people could fight for political rights. Rome became stronger because it slowly included more of its people in the system. Not perfectly, not equally, but step by step. This is another powerful lesson from Rome. A society becomes stronger when more people feel they have a place in it. During the early Republic, Rome also began expanding. At first, Rome did not control all of Italy. It was just one city among many groups. There were Latins, Sabines, Etruscans, Samnites, Greeks in southern Italy, and other peoples. Rome had to fight many wars to survive and grow. But Rome had one special strength. When Rome defeated enemies, it often did not simply destroy them completely. Many times, Rome made alliances. It gave some rights. It connected defeated peoples to the Roman system. It built roads. It made military agreements. It slowly created a network of power. This made Rome different. Rome was not only a city that conquered. Rome was a city that absorbed. It pulled other people into its system. This helped Rome grow stronger and stronger. The Roman army also became more organized. Roman soldiers were disciplined. They trained. They fought in strong formations. They learned from defeats. They adapted their weapons and methods. This ability to learn from difficulty made Rome dangerous. Rome could lose battles, but it often returned stronger. That is one of the reasons Rome became great. It did not quit after failure. It studied failure. It adjusted. It continued. By the end of this first stage, Rome had changed completely. It began as small settlements near the Tiber River. It became a city. It was ruled by kings. It learned from the Etruscans. It developed religion, family values, social classes, and military discipline. It removed its kings. It created the Republic. It started building laws, offices, checks on power, and citizen responsibility. And then it began expanding across Italy. This was only the beginning. Rome was not yet the master of the Mediterranean world. It had not yet fought Carthage. It had not yet produced Julius Caesar. It had not yet created emperors. It had not yet become the Roman Empire. But the foundation was ready. The spirit was ready. The discipline was ready. The ambition was ready. Rome had learned how to survive. And soon, Rome would learn how to conquer. Chapter 2. Rome conquers the Mediterranean and the Republic begins to break. After Rome became stronger in Italy, it faced a new question. Would Rome remain only an Italian power? Or would Rome become a power of the whole Mediterranean world? The answer came through war. And the biggest enemy Rome faced in this period was Carthage. Carthage was a rich and powerful city in North Africa, in the area of modern Tunisia. It had a strong navy. It controlled trade routes. It had wealth, ships, soldiers, and influence. Rome was strong on land. Carthage was strong at sea. So when these two powers started competing, the conflict became huge. These wars between Rome and Carthage are called the Punic Wars. There were 3 Punic Wars, and they changed Rome forever. The First Punic War began in 264 BC. The main fight was for control of Sicily, an important island between Italy and North Africa. At that time, Rome was not a great sea power. Rome was better at land battles. But if Rome wanted to defeat Carthage, it had to learn naval warfare. So Rome did something very Roman. It adapted. It learned. It copied useful methods. It built ships. It trained sailors. It turned weakness into strength. After many years of fighting, Rome won the First Punic War. Rome gained Sicily. This was very important because Sicily became Rome's first province outside Italy. This was the beginning of Rome as an overseas power. But Carthage did not disappear. It was wounded, but not finished. And soon, a man from Carthage would become one of Rome's greatest enemies. His name was Hannibal. Hannibal was a brilliant military commander. During the Second Punic War, he did something shocking. Instead of attacking Rome by sea, he led an army from Spain, crossed the Alps, and entered Italy from the north. This was extremely difficult. His army included soldiers, horses, and even war elephants. Many died during the journey. But Hannibal reached Italy, and for Rome, this was terrifying. An enemy army was now inside Roman land. Hannibal defeated Roman armies in several battles. The most famous was the Battle of Cannae in 216 BC. At Cannae, Hannibal used strategy, patience, and intelligence to destroy a much larger Roman army. It was one of the worst defeats in Roman history. But here we see one of Rome's greatest strengths. Rome did not surrender. Many cities might have given up after such a disaster. But Rome continued. Rome raised new armies. Rome refused to accept defeat. Rome changed its strategy. Instead of fighting Hannibal directly again and again, Rome attacked Carthaginian power in other places. Finally, the Roman general Scipio Africanus took the war to North Africa. Hannibal had to return home to defend Carthage. In 202 BC, at the Battle of Zama, Scipio defeated Hannibal. Rome won the Second Punic War. This victory changed everything. Rome became the strongest power in the Western Mediterranean. Carthage lost much of its power. Rome gained influence in Spain. Rome's confidence grew. But Rome's fear also grew. Many Romans never forgot how close Hannibal came to destroying them. Years later, Rome fought the Third Punic War. This time, Rome completely destroyed Carthage in 146 BC. The city was burned. Its people were killed or enslaved. Carthage was gone. Rome had removed its greatest rival. But in the same year, 146 BC, Rome also defeated Corinth in Greece. This was symbolic. In one period, Rome destroyed Carthage in the west and dominated Greece in the east. Rome was no longer just an Italian power. Rome was becoming the master of the Mediterranean. But victory brought new problems. This is one of the deepest truths of history. Success can create dangers that failure never creates. As Rome conquered more lands, money flowed into Rome. Slaves were brought from conquered territories. Rich generals and powerful families became richer. New provinces gave Rome wealth. But ordinary Roman farmers suffered. Many small farmers had spent years fighting in wars. When they returned, their farms were damaged or lost. Rich landowners bought more land. Large estates used slave labor. The gap between rich and poor became bigger. Rome was winning outside, but struggling inside. This is very important to understand. A nation can look powerful from outside and still be breaking from inside. The Roman Republic had been built on citizen farmers, duty, and shared responsibility. But now wealth, luxury, ambition, and inequality were changing Roman society. Politics became more violent. Leaders began using public anger to gain power. The army also changed. Earlier, soldiers were connected to the state. But over time, soldiers became more loyal to their generals. Why? Because generals gave them rewards, land, and money. This was dangerous. If an army loves its general more than the law, the Republic is in trouble. Rome now had powerful generals with personal armies. And these generals began fighting not only foreign enemies, but each other. Before Julius Caesar came, Rome had already seen major political tension. Two important reformers were the Gracchi brothers, Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus. They tried to help ordinary Romans by supporting land reform and other changes. But their reforms threatened powerful elites. Both brothers were killed. Their deaths showed that Roman politics was becoming violent. Instead of solving problems through law and debate, Rome was beginning to solve problems with blood. Then came powerful military leaders like Marius and Sulla. Marius changed the Roman army by allowing poorer citizens to become soldiers. This made the army larger and more flexible. But it also made soldiers depend more on generals for payment and land. Sulla later marched his army into Rome itself. This was shocking. A Roman general using a Roman army against Rome was a terrible sign. It showed that the Republic's rules were weakening. Power was moving from institutions to individuals, from law to armies, from public duty to personal ambition. Then came one of the most famous figures in world history, Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was intelligent, ambitious, brave, and dangerous. He came from an old noble family, but he built popularity with ordinary people. He was a politician, a speaker, a writer, and a general. He knew how to inspire soldiers. He knew how to win public support. And he knew how to use opportunity. Caesar formed an alliance with two other powerful men, Pompey and Crassus. This alliance is called the First Triumvirate. It was not an official government structure in the modern sense. It was more like a political agreement between powerful men. Crassus had great wealth. Pompey had military fame. Caesar had ambition and political skill. Together, they dominated Roman politics for some time. But alliances built on ambition often do not last. Caesar became governor in Gaul, an area that included much of modern France and nearby regions. There, he fought long wars and conquered huge territories. The Gallic Wars made Caesar extremely famous. His soldiers became loyal to him. His wealth and reputation grew. He wrote about his campaigns, and his image became powerful in Rome. But the Senate became afraid. Pompey also became his rival. The Roman leaders feared Caesar was becoming too powerful. They ordered him to give up his command. But Caesar made a bold decision. In 49 BC, he crossed the Rubicon River with his army. This was a point of no return. By crossing the Rubicon, Caesar was entering Italy with military force. It meant civil war. This moment became famous because it showed a leader choosing action that could not easily be undone. Caesar fought Pompey and the Senate's forces. After a series of battles, Caesar won. He became the most powerful man in Rome. Later, he was made dictator for life. Now Rome had a serious problem. The Republic had been created to avoid rule by one king. But Caesar looked like one man with too much power. Some people loved him because he brought reforms, order, and strength. Others feared him because they believed he was destroying the Republic. On March 15th, 44 BC, Julius Caesar was assassinated by a group of senators. This day is called the Ides of March. The assassins believed they were saving the Republic. But they were wrong. Caesar's death did not restore peace. It created more chaos. Civil war returned. Rome was too broken to go back to the old system. After Caesar's death, power moved to another group of men. The most important were Mark Antony, Lepidus, and Octavian. Octavian was Caesar's adopted heir. He was young, but extremely intelligent and patient. At first, Octavian and Antony worked together, but soon they became rivals. Antony connected himself with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt. Cleopatra was powerful, intelligent, and politically skilled. Rome's conflict now became connected with Egypt. Finally, Octavian defeated Antony and Cleopatra at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. Antony and Cleopatra later died. Egypt became part of Roman power. Octavian was now the strongest man in Rome. But Octavian was clever. He understood that Romans hated the word king. So he did not simply call himself king. Instead, he kept the appearance of republican traditions. The Senate still existed. Offices still existed. But real power was now in Octavian's hands. In 27 BC, he received the title Augustus. Augustus became the first Roman emperor. The Roman Republic was over. The Roman Empire had begun. Chapter 3. The Roman Empire. Power, peace, emperors, and the golden age of Rome. When Augustus became the first emperor, Rome changed forever. The old republic was gone. But Augustus did not want Rome to feel like it had lost its freedom completely. So he acted carefully. He respected old traditions in public. He honored the Senate. He used the language of peace and restoration. He said he was restoring Rome. But in reality, he was creating a new system. The emperor became the center of power. Augustus controlled the army. He controlled important provinces. He controlled money. He controlled political direction. He was not called king. But he had king-like power. This was one of Augustus's greatest skills. He understood that power is not only about what you control, it is also about how people see your control. Augustus brought stability after years of civil war. And people were tired of chaos. They wanted peace. They wanted safety. They wanted order. So many Romans accepted the new system. This period began what we call the Pax Romana. Pax Romana means Roman peace. It lasted for about 2 centuries. Of course, it was not perfect peace everywhere. There were wars on borders, there were rebellions, there were political problems. But compared to the civil wars before it, this period brought great stability across the empire. Trade became safer. Roads connected cities. Armies protected borders. Laws organized society. Cities grew. Architecture flourished. Roman culture spread. The Mediterranean Sea became almost like a Roman lake because Rome controlled lands around it. People, goods, ideas, soldiers, merchants, and officials moved across the empire. This was one of Rome's great strengths. Connection. Rome connected different lands under one system. Spain, Gaul, Italy, Greece, Egypt, North Africa, Asia Minor, Syria, Judea, and many other areas. These places were not all the same. They had different languages, cultures, religions, and histories. But Rome connected them through roads, law, taxes, cities, trade, and military power. Roman roads were one of the greatest achievements of the empire. They were built for armies first, but they also helped trade and communication. A strong road system allowed Rome to move soldiers quickly. It allowed messages to travel. It allowed goods to move. It made the empire feel connected. There's a famous saying, "All roads lead to Rome." This saying became famous because Rome was the center of a huge network. Roman engineering was also amazing. The Romans built aqueducts to bring water into cities. They built bridges. They built public baths. They built amphitheaters. They built temples. They built forums. They built strong walls. They built cities that showed power and order. The Colosseum in Rome is one of the most famous examples. It was a huge amphitheater where public shows were held. Gladiator fights, animal hunts, and other events entertained the people. But the Colosseum also shows something deeper about Rome. Rome understood the power of public spectacle. Leaders knew that people needed food, entertainment, and a feeling of greatness. Public games were not only fun, they were political. They helped emperors gain popularity. They reminded people of Roman power. This is why Rome was not only built with armies, it was also built with symbols, buildings, ceremonies, triumphs, statues, coins, stories. Everything told people, Rome is powerful, Rome is eternal, Rome is the center. Roman law was another major achievement. Rome created legal ideas that influenced later societies for centuries. The Romans cared about contracts, property, citizenship, courts, and public order. Roman law was not always equal or fair by modern standards. Slavery existed. Women had limited rights. Class differences remained. But Roman legal thinking became one of Rome's most lasting legacies. It helped organize a huge empire. Citizenship was also important. At first, Roman citizenship was limited. But over time, more people in the empire gained it. Citizenship gave status, legal protection, and identity. This helped Rome absorb people into its system. Rome did not only rule through fear. It also ruled by giving some people a reason to join Roman identity. This was a powerful strategy. Now let us understand Roman emperors. After Augustus, not every emperor was good. Some were capable, some were weak, some were cruel, some were unstable, some were brilliant. This is one problem with empire. When one person holds great power, the quality of that person matters deeply. A good emperor can bring order. A bad emperor can bring fear. After Augustus came emperors like Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero. This early imperial family is called the Julio-Claudian dynasty. Tiberius was experienced but suspicious. Caligula became famous for cruelty and strange behavior. Claudius was underestimated, but he helped expand and organize the empire. Nero became one of the most infamous emperors. He is remembered for tyranny, extravagance, and the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD. After Nero died, Rome entered a short but chaotic period, called the Year of the Four Emperors in 69 AD. Several men fought for power. This showed again that succession was a major weakness of the empire. Who should become emperor? The son? The strongest general? The Senate's choice? The army's choice? This question created danger many times in Roman history. After that chaos, the Flavian dynasty came. One of the most famous Flavian emperors was Vespasian. He helped restore stability. His son Titus completed the Colosseum. Another son, Domitian, ruled with authority but also fear. Then came one of the greatest periods in Roman imperial history. The age of the 5 good emperors. These emperors were Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius. This period is often seen as one of Rome's best ages. The empire was stable. Government worked well. The economy was strong. The borders were protected. The empire reached its greatest size under Trajan. Trajan conquered Dacia, an area roughly connected to modern Romania. Rome became larger than ever before. Under Hadrian, Rome changed focus. Hadrian understood that endless expansion was dangerous. So instead of always conquering more, he focused on defending and organizing the empire. Hadrian's Wall in Britain is a famous symbol of this policy. It marked the northern edge of Roman power in Britain. Hadrian traveled across the empire and inspected provinces. He strengthened borders. He improved administration. He showed that sometimes wisdom is not in expanding more, but in controlling what you already have. Marcus Aurelius was another famous emperor. He was also a philosopher. His writings, known as Meditations, show a mind focused on duty, self-control, discipline, and accepting hardship. But his reign was not easy. Rome faced wars, disease, and pressure on the borders. Even during the Golden Age, problems were growing. The empire was huge, and huge things are difficult to control. Roman society during the empire was complex. At the top were the emperor, senators, wealthy families, officials, and military leaders. Below them were merchants, craftsmen, farmers, workers, freed people, and slaves. Slavery was a major part of the Roman economy. Enslaved people worked in homes, farms, mines, workshops, and public projects. Some slaves were educated and worked as teachers, secretaries, or managers. Some were freed and became freedmen. But slavery remained a brutal reality of Roman life. So when we admire Rome's buildings and power, we must also remember the human cost behind them. Great civilizations often have both beauty and darkness. Rome had law, engineering, and culture. But it also had conquest, slavery, violence, and inequality. To understand Rome honestly, we must see both sides. Religion in the Roman Empire was also diverse. Romans worshipped many gods. They adopted gods from other cultures. Emperor worship also became important in some places. People honored the emperor as a symbol of Roman unity and power. But inside this empire, a new religious movement began to grow. Christianity. Christianity began in Judea, a Roman-controlled region. It was based on the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. At first, Christians were a small group. They believed in one God. They followed Jesus. They believed in love, forgiveness, salvation, and eternal life. This was very different from traditional Roman religion. Christians often refused to worship Roman gods or the emperor. This created suspicion. Sometimes Christians were persecuted. They were blamed during crises. Some were arrested, punished, or killed. But Christianity continued to spread. Why? Because its message gave hope to many people. It attracted poor people, slaves, women, and also educated people over time. It offered spiritual equality before God. It created communities of support. It gave meaning in a difficult world. This is important because Christianity would later transform the Roman Empire itself. But in the High Empire period, Rome still looked powerful. Its cities were active. Its army was feared. Its roads were strong. Its laws were respected. Its culture spread widely. Latin became important in the western part of the empire. Greek remained important in the eastern part. Roman culture mixed with local cultures. This is called Romanization. In many provinces, local elites adopted Roman customs. They built Roman-style buildings. They learned Latin. They served in government. They joined Roman politics. They became part of the empire. This helped Rome last longer. Because people were not only conquered, many were slowly included. But the empire also depended heavily on the army. The Roman army protected borders, built roads, controlled provinces, and supported emperors. Legions were highly organized. Soldiers trained hard. Military camps sometimes became permanent towns. The army was one of Rome's greatest strengths. But later, it also became one of Rome's biggest political dangers. Because emperors needed army support. If the army supported a new leader, that leader could become emperor. This made politics unstable later. By the end of the Golden Age, Rome was still powerful, but the warning signs were present. The empire was too large. Borders were under pressure. The economy needed constant support. Leadership depended too much on the emperor. The army had great political power. Disease and war weakened the population. And after Marcus Aurelius, Rome began moving into a more difficult period. His son Commodus became emperor. Commodus was very different from his father. His rule is often seen as the beginning of serious decline after the Golden Age. He was more interested in personal glory and entertainment than responsible leadership. After his death, Rome again faced instability. The empire still stood, but the golden calm was fading. Chapter 4. Crisis, Division, Christianity, the Fall of Western Rome, and the Legacy that Never Died. After the Golden Age of Rome, The empire did not fall immediately. This is very important to understand. Rome did not collapse in one night. Rome did not fall because of one bad emperor, one battle, or one single mistake. The fall of Rome was a long process. It was like a strong building that slowly developed cracks. At first, the cracks were small, then they became deeper, then the walls became weak, and finally, one part of the building fell. This is how Rome declined. Slowly, painfully, step by step. After the time of Marcus Aurelius, the empire entered a difficult period. The Roman Empire was huge. It stretched across many lands. It had long borders. It had different peoples. It needed strong armies. It needed money. It needed good leaders. It needed unity. But keeping such a large empire together was extremely difficult. The empire had to defend itself in Europe, Africa, and Asia. Enemies attacked the borders. Germanic tribes pressed from the north. The Persian Empire threatened Rome in the east. The army needed more soldiers. Soldiers needed payment. Taxes became heavier. Prices increased. Trade became weaker in some areas. The government became more complicated, and the people began to feel pressure. Rome was still powerful, but it was becoming tired. This period is often called the crisis of the 3rd century. It happened during the 200s AD. It was one of the most dangerous times in Roman history. During this crisis, emperors came and went very quickly. Many emperors were chosen by the army. Many were killed by the army. Some ruled only for a short time. Some never had full control. The empire became unstable. Imagine a country where the leader changes again and again, not because of peaceful elections, but because of violence, murder, and military power. That creates fear. That destroys trust. That weakens the system. And that is what happened to Rome. The Roman army, once the protector of the empire, became deeply involved in politics. If soldiers did not like an emperor, they could remove him. If a general had enough military support, he could try to become emperor. This made the throne dangerous. Power became less about law and more about force. This is one of the strongest lessons from Rome. When institutions become weaker than personal ambition, a nation begins to suffer. During this time, parts of the empire even broke away for a while. In the west, there was a breakaway region called the Gallic Empire. In the east, the city of Palmyra became powerful under Queen Zenobia. Rome looked like it might break into pieces, but Rome did not die yet. Strong leaders appeared and tried to save it. One of them was Emperor Aurelian. He ruled in the late 200s AD. Aurelian was a powerful military leader. He reunited parts of the empire. He defeated enemies. He restored Roman control. He was even called Restorer of the World. This shows us something important. Rome was weak, but not finished. The empire could still recover when strong leadership appeared. But recovery did not mean the old problems disappeared. The empire needed deeper reform. Then came Emperor Diocletian. Diocletian became emperor in 284 AD. He understood that the empire was too large for one man to control easily, so he made a major change. He divided power. He created a system called the Tetrarchy. Tetrarchy means rule by 4. There would be 2 senior emperors and 2 junior emperors. One part of the leadership would focus on the west. Another part would focus on the east. The idea was simple. If the empire was too big for one ruler, then share responsibility. Diocletian also strengthened the army. He changed the tax system. He made government more organized. He tried to control prices. He wanted order. He wanted stability. He wanted discipline. Diocletian helped save the empire from immediate collapse, but his reforms also made the empire more controlled and more expensive to run. More government meant more taxes. More soldiers meant more money. More control meant less freedom for many people. Rome survived, but it changed. It became less like the old classical empire and more like a heavy military state. After Diocletian, another major leader appeared, Constantine the Great. Constantine changed Roman history forever. He became powerful after years of civil war. In 312 AD, he won the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. This battle became famous because it was connected with Christianity. According to tradition, Constantine saw a Christian sign before the battle and believed he received divine support. After he became emperor, Christianity gained protection. In 313 AD, the Edict of Milan allowed Christians to worship freely. This was a huge turning point. For many years, Christians had sometimes been persecuted, but now Christianity was accepted. Later, Christianity would become one of the most powerful forces in the Roman world. Constantine did not only change religion, he also changed the center of power. He built a new capital in the east. The city was called Constantinople. Today, it is known as Istanbul. Constantinople was built on the old Greek city of Byzantium. Its location was excellent. It connected Europe and Asia. It was close to important trade routes. It was easier to defend. It was rich, strategic, and powerful. By creating Constantinople, Constantine showed that the eastern part of the empire was becoming more important. Rome, the city, was still symbolic. But real power was slowly moving east. This was one of the biggest changes in Roman history. The Roman Empire was no longer centered only on old Rome. It had a new heart, a new capital, a new direction. Christianity continued to grow. At first, Rome had been a world of many gods. But over time, Christian belief became stronger and stronger. In 380 AD, Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire under Emperor Theodosius I. This changed Roman culture deeply. Temples, rituals, public life, art, philosophy, politics, and identity began to change. The empire was still Roman, but it was becoming Christian Roman. This transformation was not simple. Some people accepted it. Some resisted it. Old beliefs did not disappear instantly. But the spiritual direction of Rome changed forever. Theodosius was also important for another reason. After his death in 395 AD, the empire was permanently divided between East and West. There was an Eastern Roman Empire, and there was a Western Roman Empire. This division was meant to make ruling easier, but the two halves were not equally strong. The eastern half was richer. It had stronger cities. It had better trade. It had Constantinople. It had more resources. The western half was weaker. It had more border pressure. It had economic problems. It had political instability. It had fewer resources. And soon the western part would face disaster. Germanic groups were moving into Roman territory. Some were enemies. Some were refugees. Some wanted safety. Some wanted land. Some wanted to serve in the Roman army. The situation was complicated. Rome had used barbarian soldiers before. The word barbarian was used by Romans for peoples outside Roman culture. But these groups were not simple or stupid. They had their own leaders, warriors, families, traditions, and political goals. Some Germanic groups wanted to live inside the empire. Some wanted protection from even more dangerous forces. One of those dangerous forces was the Huns. The Huns came from the east and pushed other groups toward Roman lands. This created a chain reaction. People moved. Borders became unstable. Rome struggled to control the movement. One major group was the Visigoths. In 378 AD, the Visigoths defeated the Roman army at the Battle of Adrianople. This was a terrible defeat for Rome. The Roman Emperor Valens was killed. This battle showed that Rome's army was no longer unbeatable. It also showed that the empire had a serious border and military problem. Later, the Visigoths entered Italy under their leader Alaric. In 410 AD, they sacked the city of Rome. This shocked the world. Rome had not been taken by a foreign enemy for centuries. For many people, it felt impossible. Rome was the eternal city. Rome was the symbol of power. Rome was the heart of the old world. And now, enemies had entered it. But remember this carefully. The sack of Rome in 410 AD did not mean the whole empire ended immediately. The Western Roman Empire continued for some time. But emotionally and symbolically, it was a huge blow. It showed that Rome was no longer safe. It showed that Roman power had become weak. It showed that the old image of invincible Rome was broken. After this, the Western Empire continued losing control. Different Germanic kingdoms began forming inside former Roman lands. The Vandals moved into North Africa. This was a major disaster for the Western Roman Empire because North Africa was economically important. It supplied grain and wealth. When the Vandals controlled North Africa, the Western Empire lost important resources. In 455 AD, the Vandals sacked Rome. Again, the city suffered. The Western emperors became weaker and weaker. Often, real power was not in the hands of the emperor. It was in the hands of military commanders. Some emperors were young. Some were controlled by others. Some ruled only in name. Rome had once been led by powerful figures who shaped the world. Now, many Western emperors were shadows of power. Then, in 476 AD, the final moment came. A Germanic leader named Odoacer removed the young emperor Romulus Augustulus. Romulus Augustulus is often called the last Western Roman emperor. Odoacer did not replace him with another Western emperor. Instead, he ruled Italy himself and sent the imperial symbols to the emperor in the east. This event is often used as the date for the fall of the Western Roman Empire. 476 AD. But history is not always clean and simple. For people living at that time, it may not have felt like one dramatic ending. Life continued. Cities continued. Roman laws and customs continued in different forms. The Senate still existed for some time. The church grew stronger. Germanic kings used Roman systems. Latin continued. Roman identity did not disappear overnight. But politically, the Western Roman Empire was gone. The Western Emperor was gone. The old Roman state in the West had collapsed. Now we must ask a big question. Why did Western Rome fall? There is no single answer. Rome fell because of many connected problems. Weak leadership, civil wars, military pressure, economic problems, heavy taxes, political corruption, dependence on foreign soldiers, loss of unity, invasions and migrations, a divided empire, a weaker Western economy, and the difficulty of controlling such a huge territory. Rome did not fall because of one reason. Rome fell because many problems became too heavy at the same time. A strong civilization can survive one problem, maybe two problems, maybe even three. But when political weakness, economic pressure, military danger, social change, and leadership failure come together, even a great empire can break. This is one of the greatest lessons of Roman history. No power is permanent if the foundation becomes weak. But this was not the end of Rome completely. The Eastern Roman Empire continued. We often call it the Byzantine Empire today, but the people living there called themselves Romans. Their capital was Constantinople. Their language eventually became mostly Greek. Their culture mixed Roman law, Greek tradition, and Christianity. The Eastern Roman Empire lasted for almost 1,000 more years after the fall of the West. One of its greatest emperors was Justinian. He ruled in the 500s AD. Justinian wanted to restore Roman greatness. He tried to reconquer parts of the old Western Empire. His armies took back North Africa, Italy, and parts of Spain for a time. He also created one of the most important legal works in history, the Justinian Code. This collection of Roman law influenced legal systems for centuries. Justinian also built the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople. It became one of the greatest buildings in the world. It showed the power, faith, and beauty of the Eastern Roman world. But Justinian's reconquests did not fully restore old Rome. Wars were expensive. Disease struck. The empire faced pressure from Persians, later Arabs, Bulgars, Turks, and others. The Eastern Roman Empire survived for centuries, but it slowly became smaller. Finally, in 1453, Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Turks. This marked the end of the Eastern Roman Empire. If we look at Rome from the very beginning to the fall of Constantinople, the Roman story lasted for more than 2,000 years. That is almost unbelievable. From small villages near the Tiber River to a republic, from a republic to a world empire, from Rome to Constantinople, from pagan temples to Christian churches, from Latin laws to medieval kingdoms. Rome changed many times, but its influence continued. And even after Rome fell, its legacy did not die. Roman law influenced later legal systems. Roman roads inspired future infrastructure. Roman architecture influenced buildings, churches, capitals, and monuments. Roman language shaped many modern languages. Latin became the foundation for Italian, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Romanian. Roman political ideas influenced later governments. The idea of a republic inspired future societies. The Roman Senate became a symbol of political authority. Roman military organization became a model for later armies. Roman engineering showed what planning and discipline could create. Roman Christianity shaped Europe deeply. The Catholic Church grew in the old Western Roman world. The Eastern Orthodox tradition grew from the Eastern Roman world. Roman history influenced art, literature, philosophy, education, politics, and identity. Even today, we use Roman words, Roman ideas, Roman symbols, and Roman lessons. When people talk about republics, senates, citizens, laws, empire, dictatorship, civic duty, and public service, the shadow of Rome is still there. Rome is not just ancient history. Rome is part of the modern world's foundation. But the story of Rome is also a warning. Rome teaches us that power without responsibility becomes dangerous. Wealth without fairness creates anger. Armies without loyalty to law can destroy a state. Leaders without wisdom can weaken a nation. Entertainment without discipline can distract people. Expansion without stability can become a burden. And greatness without moral strength can slowly collapse. Rome was powerful, but Rome was not perfect. It created beauty. It also created suffering. It built roads. It also fought brutal wars. IT created laws. It also accepted slavery. It gave citizenship. It also created inequality. It built a great civilization. But it also made mistakes that slowly destroyed it. That is why Rome is so important to study honestly. Not to worship it, not to hate it, but to understand it. Rome shows us human greatness and human weakness at the same time. It shows us what people can build with discipline, organization, courage, and ambition. And it also shows us what people can lose through pride, corruption, division, and careless leadership. My friends, the full history of Rome is one of the most powerful stories in the world. Rome began as a small settlement near a river. No one at the beginning could have fully imagined what it would become. But step by step, Rome grew. It learned from others. It organized itself. It built strong armies. It created laws. It formed a republic. It conquered enemies. It defeated Carthage. It controlled the Mediterranean. It produced great leaders, dangerous leaders, wise emperors, cruel emperors, builders, soldiers, thinkers, and reformers. It created peace for millions. It also created fear for many. It built roads across continents. It built cities that showed power. It spread language, law, culture, and identity. Then it struggled. It divided. It changed. The West fell. The East survived. And even after the empire disappeared, Rome's influence continued to live. This is the real power of history. History shows us that nothing great is built without effort, and nothing great survives without discipline. Rome teaches us that foundations matter, leadership matters, unity matters, law matters, character matters. A nation can become powerful through courage and organization, but it can become weak through corruption, division, and pride. The story of Rome is not only about the past. It is a lesson for every person and every society. If you want to build something great, build a strong foundation. If you want to keep something great, protect it with wisdom. If you want success, respect discipline. If you want power, use it responsibly. If you want your legacy to live, create something meaningful. Because Rome reminds us of one unforgettable truth. Greatness can rise from small beginnings. But greatness can only survive when strength, wisdom, and responsibility stay alive. Rome fell as an empire, but Rome never truly disappeared. It lives in laws. It lives in languages. It lives in buildings. It lives in books. It lives in governments. It lives in history. And it lives in the lessons it left for the world. That is why Rome is not just a city. Rome is a story of ambition, power, beauty, struggle, collapse, and legacy. And that is why, even after thousands of years, the world still remembers Rome.